Well, let's get you up to speed with other health issues. And it's popularly called neonatal jaundice, a liver condition that causes yellowing of newborn babies' skin and eyes. So, yeah, things we need to know. And also some education that we all need to bring to our homes. So we know that the Pediatric Society of Ghana has decided to put together some great initiatives. The Greater Accra chapter, with this president in the studio, are going to help us do some great discussions. We have Dr. Jaundice, who is a pediatrician with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
And we also have Dr. Teiba Afa, a lecturer with the University of Ghana School of Medicine and Dentistry, a pediatrician and a specialist in her own right. Thanks for joining me. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing
great,
well.
great. But let's start with you. When we say jaundice, what is it?
Jaundice means yellowish discoloration of either the eyes or the skin.
All the time?
All the time. It is not a disease. It's actually a sign of an underlying disease.
Okay. Meaning what?
Meaning that it is what you see or what you report with. As a result, if we say somebody has neonatal jaundice, there is almost always an underlying cause to it. Hence the reason why it's called a sign.
Okay, and what causes it?
Neonatal jaundice is as a result of accumulation of breakdown of red blood cells. Red blood cells, like we know, every cell will die. And when red blood cells die, it breaks down to become something we call bilirubin. It migrates from the blood and then will get into the liver. When it gets into the liver, it is processed and then will move from the liver into tube and then into the intestine. Then in there, it colors the stool. It gives the stool its brownish color. So as a result, if you have reasons why you have so many red blood cells that will be dying much earlier, then you are going to have elevation or high number of bilirubin in your blood. If for one reason or the other, the processing in the liver is defective, you are likely going to have jaundice or accumulation of the bilirubin. However, if there's nothing wrong and then it gets processed into the liver and then the movement is blocked for one reason or the other, then this substance is not going to get into the intestine to color the stool. And if you have a problem like that, then the stool will not be colored. You will not see the brownish color of the stool. So many things can happen during the processing, from the breakdown of red blood cells all the way to when the bilirubin gets into the intestine.
I see. And the Greater Accra branch of the Pediatric Society of Ghana, you're concerned. But why should we be concerned?
Well, we think you should be concerned because it is the leading cause of preventable physical disability in Ghanaian children.
People get disabled, children get disabled as a result of it?
As a result, that's the severest form of neonatal jaundice. Okay, we are burdened with a lot of health situations. And what we don't want is to have children who are disabled and then further burden the system, especially if the disability is going to come from a condition that we can easily prevent with simple education to mothers and to families and to health workers. And that's why it's a big deal for us, because there are other problems we can't do much about. But for those that we can certainly do little measures to control, absolutely we should give it our best shot, and that's why we've taken it on board.
Okay, so it can be prevented?
It cannot, not 100%. Now, the fact of the matter is that 6 out of 10 children who are born will have jaundice, normal birth. 8 out of 10 premature children will have jaundice. So, by and large, most children will have jaundice. The question is, the few ones who have the severest form of it, who report late, and because they report late, they have the adverse problem with the accumulation of the substance in their blood. Those are the ones that we are really worried about.
I see. But just a simple yellowing of the eye, and you diagnosing a child to be having jaundice means that child will get paralyzed.
No, not at all. It depends on so many factors. If your eyes are yellow and you have other risk factors associated, so the red flags are, if this yellowness or yellowish discoloration of the eyes occurs on the first day of life, is a complete reason why we should act actively, fast, and look for the underlying cause. Because this substance, as it accumulates, it could get into the brain. And if your mother is infected for certain kinds of organism from either the first trimester of pregnancy, second trimester of pregnancy, or even during birth, during labor, you could get jaundice as a result of that. But then there may be underlying infection from your mother, which would then be associated with the jaundice. And then if a mother's membrane is broken, be it either at term or pre-term, and this breakage continues for a minimum of 18 hours before the child comes into this world, is also a risk factor. The fact that brothers are using camphor in their children's clothing, and this child has inherited something we call G6PD deficiency, could lead to the breakdown of red blood cells faster and accumulation of, yes, camphor, naphthalene balls. Yes.
Naphthalene
balls. Some people call it moth balls.
Okay. Yeah,
yes.
okay.
So it's one of the tests we do for pregnant women during pregnancy to see whether they are G6PD deficient. And there are so many things that can cause. The fact that you belong to a certain kind of blood group, your father belongs to this type of blood group, your mother belongs to another type of blood group, you have inherited something from your father in relation to the blood group, there is no compatibility, this will cause breakdown of red blood cells and will lead to jaundice.
So, I mean, so to crystallize that into the latter part of the question you're asking about prevention. So like I said, it cannot be prevented 100%. But then there are a few things that can be done to prevent the severest form of it. And she's highlighted a couple of them. So she mentioned the use of camphor. Our mothers traditionally would buy the clothing of their babies and preserve them in the camphor balls so that insects don't get into them, they remain fresh. Unfortunately, if you have a child who is born with a condition we call G6PD deficiency, the moment you put those clothing on and it gets in touch with their body and their blood, then there's rapid breakdown of their cells and then the jaundice appears. 2, if you have a mother who is blood group O positive or blood group O negative, so let me start with the O positive, and their child is either blood group A or blood group B, then the interaction between their mother's blood and the baby's blood then causes accelerated breakdown. That is why it's important that mothers go for antenatal care, so that once you pick out that blood group and you already know that your spouse has A or B, already you're on high alert. So this child will not be discharged from the hospital as quickly as any other normal child will be. But you keep them an extra day just to pay a bit more attention to them. Similarly, if your mother is O negative, they are supposed to take some antibody medication so that their babies who turn out as positive don't interact with that blood and have the jaundice. So if they don't go for antenatal care, they don't get that preventive injection, then guess what? The child comes in, within 24 hours, their blood cells are breaking down rapidly, and then within 48 hours, it crosses into their brain, and then by the 3rd day, they're already very ill. Either they die, if they survive, their brain's already damaged, and by 6 weeks, you begin to see the manifestations of the problem.
But then now, as an expecting mother, during pregnancy, is there something I can do to prevent it? Like, is there something in my control? For example, my blood group is not in my control.
Yeah.
So is there something in my control that I can do?
Well, so what's in your control, like I said, is the camphor balls.
Camphor balls,
yes.
yeah.
2, one of the infections that we worry about for pregnant women is toxoplasmosis. Okay, and it's an infection that is transferred by the fecal matter of cats and dogs. And so traditionally, if you have a home where you have kind of raw soil and you have pets, cats or dogs, and they go and defecate into it, and during your pregnancy you continue with your gardening, then the parasite gets into your blood, and once you contract that,
interact with of your pet.
Oh yeah, yes, but basically the fecal matter is the most important thing. So once you do that, then you get the parasite, you get the infection. Chances are that when you have a child, the child will end up with a severe form of neonatal jaundice, in addition to other structural problems. So these are probably within your control in code before you deliver. But once you deliver to, then what's probably also within your control is establishing breastfeeding early enough. Because a child who is dehydrated is more likely to have the severest form of neonatal jaundice. So if you're having challenges breastfeeding, then you need to get in touch with the health worker to assist you lactate better, establish breastfeeding better. And so, yeah.
Another thing I would want to add to what Dr. Josie said is that when you break your membrane, you see water. You don't have to wait. For instance, you are not term and this water is leaking. You need to report to the hospital, where you'll be covered with antibiotics. Once you are covered with antibiotics, the baby is not likely to be infected with contaminant from your genitalia into the baby.
Okay, so that's how you treat it? Is that how it's treated?
That is how the mother is treated.
Okay, so how is it treated?
Treatments are diverse, and like I told you, depending on the type of jaundice, the treatment varies. So if it's as a result of one of the common things Dr. Ajosi said, then we treat it with light. But the light has a specific spectrum. It's not the light that we all every day use, the bluish tinge. And we treat it, we call it phototherapy. The baby is naked, we cover the genitalia and then the eyes, and then we put the baby under light at a certain distance. And there are certain kinds of phototherapy units that does beautifully well within a very short time, because the light is from below and then above the baby. So that is what we usually would use for the treatment of these kinds of conditions. And if it is associated with infection, we also give antibiotics for the treatment of the infection. And then the other type of jaundice, that would be as a result of the liver disease itself. There are so many kinds of treatment. However, the other thing you also would have to watch is if the baby's stool is not colored, we call it a colic stool. It looks like clay. It is, yes, that treatment is surgical and is time bound. Because if we don't get the baby early to treat, baby is 3 months old, baby is too grown for that kind of surgery.
So now, are there any complications maybe 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line?
If you survive.
If you survive, yeah.
Without any proper treatment.
Okay.
Yeah. So before I address that question, with the treatment as well, when you come to the facility and the levels are exceedingly high, and we do not have the most appropriate photo unit, then we do what we call an exchange transfusion. I mean, I need to make that point because sometimes mothers come and when you mention it to them, they probably get a biscuit. Sometimes what you need to do is to take out the child's whole blood and replace it with another quantity of blood, just so that you can get a huge chunk of that bilirubin out of the system as soon as possible. Now for the complication, in the immediate times, you have minor neurological problems. So you have problems with feeding, you have problems with movement, the children will not attain their landmark milestones as you expect. So when they are supposed to sit, when they are supposed to crawl, when they are supposed to stand, you have challenges with that. You have challenges with them maintaining their feeding. In the long term, we said the severest form of it is the damage to the brain. And the most important part of the brain that it damages is the part of the brain that deals with your motor movement. So as in your movement, your gait, your posture. And that's why I said that it's the leading cause of preventable cause of physical disability. So in the long term, by the time you're about, whatever, maybe 10 years, when no movement or the move with abnormal
we are pretty
gaits.
much dependent on your mother.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this mother would have to go to work. She's saddled with a 10, 12 years old child at home.
Okay, so it means that you're creating the awareness, and this is part of the awareness creation, or you have other activities?
Well, what we've done is to make May Jaundice month, or what we call a yellow month.
Okay.
A yellow month. So you see me in my yellow T-shirt with newborn jaundice on it.
She's also in yellow. I mean, right.
Absolutely, yes. So what we've done is that in the first, because it's the first time we are doing it, in the first we launched it in the Department of Child Health and the Ops and Gynae department in Kolebu Teaching Hospital, where we took opportunity to talk to mothers who were waiting to be seen. Then what we subsequently did was to do training for selected health workers from all centers in Greater Accra region. We did that last week, Monday. So essentially, we feel that even health workers need to be empowered to carry this message across. So we got them together, about 100 of them, trained them. She was one of our resource persons, and she's the chairperson of our neonatal jaundice committee as well, and they did a fabulous work. The idea is that with these 100 or so health workers who have been trained, they are supposed to go back to their facilities and within their immediate catchment areas have training to increase their awareness. And then finally, we've utilized, of course, the social media networks, WhatsApp, Facebook, and the like, to carry the message out, to create their awareness.
Right,
yes.
right. Yeah. Well, thank you all for passing through the studio. It's been a great conversation, great education for all of us. Dr. Teiba Afa is a lecturer with the School of Medicine and Dentistry, the University of Ghana. Also a pediatrician and the chairperson of the Neonatal Jaundice Committee of the Pediatric Society of Ghana. The Greater Accra branch already doing great work, and its president is also here. Also worked with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Dr. Dela Josie. Thanks for passing through.
Thank you so much for having us.